everybody loved Mick. They wanted to see Mick succeed, the wrestling fans. So when you say Mick Foley's finally going to win the world title on the other channel, nobody wants to see that. No, yes they did. Click,
That
click.
was the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I did have.
Yeah, wait, he's poor guys back here.
So my question, Sarge. There's a lot of, I don't know if you've answered this already, but there's a lot of conjecture about why you left the WWE World NF back in '84. Do you want to? Can you elaborate on that, or like it's like there's conflicting information about it?
Well, I had some personal problems on top of getting asked to go to Hasbro. I told Vince probably a month before I was asked by Hasbro to come with them that I, get some family problems. I needed to take some time off. Vince said, "Oh, take all the time you need off." And I kept getting my bookings. There was never any time off. So finally, I told him one night when Wendy Richter won the title in the Madison Square Garden. Before I went out for my match, I said, "I'm giving you my notice." He goes, "No, I'm not giving you." But yeah, I am. So you keep coming in and out of the locker room. I'm not accepting your. In fact, we're having a party at Cyndi Lauper's restaurant or something afterwards. We'll have a meeting there. So we were there, and there's a big table, and he made everybody move. Kept asking what my problem was. I said, "You're the problem. I told you I want time off. I got problems at home. I got to take care of it." And he said, "Well, go ahead and take a couple of days off." I said, "No, I need more than a couple of days." So I just started giving him a hard time and not showing up to a couple of shows that I was advertised to be at. And then it just started festering and everything like that. So luckily Hasbro came along and I had them in my back pocket at the end. I remember going, I did go to Arizona for a big show in Phoenix. I was supposed to wrestle Nikolai Volkov. And Vince kept calling my attorney and saying, "Is Sarge going to be there?" And he'd say, "Yeah, he's on his way." And I was sitting right next to my attorney.
You also did some AWA stuff during that time too. You did some. I saw some of those matches. What do you think about your AWA run?
Which one?
Your AWA
AWA
run for Vern.
They allowed me to promote G.I. Joe,
okay.
so that's why I went with them. And they didn't have merchandise, so my attorney, I said to Vern Gagne, "How come you don't do merchandise?" He says, "There's no money in it."
Right.
Do you mind if I
Vern
do
was
it?
so old-fashioned, he still saw in black and white.
Yeah. So he talked to Vern, and Vern said, "Yeah, if you want to sell merchandise, go ahead." All of a sudden, he's seeing all this, guys are, promoting their products, and Vern's not getting it. So he pulled the plug on it and ended up in a big lawsuit. He called me in as a witness. I'm sitting at a conference like this, and I'm Vern's #1 witness, and I know exactly what happened. So by the time we got to me, my attorney bumped me and looked over, and Vern was asleep. So they finally asked me to tell me what I knew, and I told them the truth. Gagne did have merchandise, said we could go ahead and do it. My attorney decided to do it, and Vern pulled the plug on him. So it all ended up fine. And Vern never said, bad Sarge, or kept me as long as I wanted to go, and they started kind of having a problem there. We were doing something with, I believe it was Jarrett Crockett.
That's a Pro Wrestling USA thing.
Pro Wrestling USA, and it really did well, and then all of a sudden they couldn't seem to
Decide on who was going to order lunch.
So I never did get a payoff on that one.
I gotta ask one, because I know we're in Tennessee, it's a different territory, but tell the story about the cage match in Greensboro. The story, I've heard you tell it about where you had to park. Okay, just to set it up, the biggest drawing tag team match of all time in the Carolinas was not the Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express. I will tap out to facts. Sergeant Slaughter and Don Kernodle against Steamboat and Youngblood in '83, and there's Steamboat calling out. Heard us mention his
Are you
name.
kidding?
Hurry up and get in the line.
I can't remember what the date was. It wasn't even Starrcade, but the point is they had the cage match at the end of their big feud, and not only did they sell out 16,000 plus people in the Greensboro Coliseum, but they turned thousands of people away and they closed the exit off the interstate. So you had a story about how you actually got in the building.
Yeah. I had met Don Kernodle in Charlotte, and he said, we got to meet Flair, and we'll go out together. I said, well, I'd rather not. I'd rather take two cars. Because Flair likes to party all damn night. You know? So he said, okay. So I followed Don Kernodle to pretty close to the exit you take to get to the Coliseum. And we had 5 matches that night. It was Flair against Valentine in a world title match. And they actually were on before us. They went 1 hour to a draw. And so, backing up a little bit, we turn off the exit, and there's cars as far as you can see. And we're in a parking lot. And I keep looking at my watch. Didn't have the radio on. And finally, I said, what's going on here? All of a sudden, I see Kernodle and Flair tapping him, telling him to get going. So Kernodle goes in the wrong lane and just heads south on me. I should say north. And I, being a law-abiding citizen, I stayed in my lane.
How would it look if Sergeant Slaughter got pulled over for a traffic violation?
That would be bad.
Think of the children. You got to think of the children.
And I turned the radio on and hear that if you don't have tickets to the Greensboro Coliseum NWA show, don't go because it's sold out. And back then, you didn't do a lot of pre-sale. It wasn't pay-per-view. I tried to talk Crockett into doing a building next door with a closer TV, but because there wasn't a lot of pre-sale.
Which they ended up doing for Starrcade because of this match.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Because he was like, oh, that'll never work.
Yeah. So anyway, I finally get about 3 or 4 blocks from the Coliseum. I could see it, but I couldn't get to it. So I pulled over at a little 7-Eleven and parked my car, and I went inside. And I said, sir, I'm Sergeant Slaughter. Yeah. I said, can I leave my car here for a few minutes? I got to get to the match. It's 8 o'clock now. So I take my bag and I walk the rest of the way to the Coliseum.
You start hot foot.
Finally, they get the first match going, and I run back down and get my car and pull it back up. But the policeman told me that 16,000 were there, and he estimated that many or more were turned away. He was guessing about 20,000 people were turned away from that. Whether that means cars or people or fans, I'm not sure, but it was a mess. But it was a great story.
If you go back and watch that match on YouTube, at the end of the match when they finally get beat, you can see people throwing babies in the air, right? Yeah!
Oh my God!
Oh, we waited so long to see that.
It was one of those where we set it up to where you knew there was going to be a winner and a loser, because we had all these matches over the course of the program, and we finally ended up in a cage match with Sandy Scott being the special guest referee, and he was like the commissioner. And there's cage, and if we won, we kept the titles, and if they lost, they could never wrestle again as a tag team. And so it was set up so somebody's going to either win or lose. There was no other way around it. And it was really a great match and fun to do. But the whole kicker was we were supposed to come right back. This was in between the NCAA basketball tournament, and the building was open, but then it wasn't open for another 2 weeks. So we were going to come right back in 2 weeks and do the same match. That was the program was laid out that we had a clause in our contract that we get a rematch, and we decided we had Steamboat Youngblood come up. Everybody was bandaged up and limping and scratches all over, and it's a brutal match. And they said we're glad to be the champions. We're taking a trip to Hawaii. We're going to be back in a month. And we came on and said, oh, no, you're not. We're going right back into, we got a rematch clause. What are you talking about? Sandy Scott, well, yeah, they do. What kind of match you want? Well, we want the same match. We want the cage for the titles. You don't win, you can't win. And it was just, but the Coliseum wasn't available. They didn't tell us till after we did our promo. They said, no, we got it. So we went to Richmond with it. It did very well, but it wasn't like it would have been.
It would have been great if they had you do the local promos for Greensboro, and nobody that saw the first match is allowed to come this time. Give other people a chance.
Yeah.
That was the biggest arena at that time in the state of North Carolina, and they still couldn't get them all in.
Right.
So that was.
Yeah. It was kind of a precedent.
That's the kind of shit we had to follow when we got to the Carolinas. There was guys doing stuff like that, and the Andersons.
Yeah. Well, probably the greatest man on the mic for not only commentating but to promote his talent that he had over the years.
Or exaggerate my talent. Better.
I watched him many times, and Jim gave me a couple of lines while he was working WWE at other end of the company. And gave me a line one time. I was working a thing as a commissioner with Triple H and Shawn Michaels, China, and my promo ended a day in infamy. And James gave me that line, and when I said it...
That's right, I remember that. I remember us talking about that, probably catering or something.
Right. And he gave me the line, and I said, that, because I was looking for an Eddie line. He said, well, why don't you say this? Yeah. Love it. So when I did it, it just popped everybody. I just said, I might not win this match against Triple H, but...
You should have won the match.
He'll be in a match you'll never forget.
That was a nice set.
And when I came back, that was like the last promo of the night, and I was getting ready to leave, and I hear Vince, and Vince was doing play-by-play at that time, and he came back, and I could hear him saying, "Where's Sergeant Slaughter? That was the greatest promo he's ever done, especially the part about the infamy." And I said, "Hey, here I am." And I said, Jim Cornette gave me that line. He did.
In that case, it was a shit.
It was great. I loved it. Best one you've ever done. And I did a lot of good.